are. Yes, I know. It's 1:30. Yeah. Am I late? What am I late? Is it 1:32? I don't think I'm that late. I had to get more ice in my 7-Up. So it was lovely. It was lovely because, we did the Stage It show last night. We did the show, like, over there in the other part of the living room. And it was awesome. And the last time we did it back in, seems so long ago, May. I've been touring my living room so long. I'm like trying to remember. And we had winners. And so Randy and Bill, we just did a whole like live Facebooky phone call thing. Great! Got to get caught up. So, yay, back in my chair for reading. And now normally I do a hi Bill. I was gonna wear this bonnet that sort of matched this, but I realized it's no dry. This purple was just so striking when I saw it in the box when it arrived just the other day from Minnesota. Yes, I did put some more bonnets as available on the site that I just couldn't resist it. So I'm wearing the shocking purple one today because I like it. So today is it's Friday. Yeah, it's Friday. It is Friday, which is June 26th, and today is National Coconut Day. I'm not a big fan of coconut. I mean, it's sort of okay, but here we go. National Beautician's Day. That's a good thing. We like them. National Chocolate Pudding Day. I have chocolate pudding in the house. I can make chocolate. National Chocolate Pudding Day and National Take Your Dog to Work Day. Does that actually work? Can you take your dog to work most places? I don't know. But I guess if you have the kind of workplace, we'll let you take your dog. Today's the day. So there you are. It's Take Your Dog to Work Day. Do I have snacks? I totally have snacks. What do I have? I'm just getting some more here. Yes, I have cheese and crackers. I have a few Triscuits, and I have this lovely cheddar cheese. Super healthy. I'm not. I have Diet 7-Up. Hello, Canada. Hey, everyone's here. Yeah, the show was great. I mean, it's weird. It's only a half an hour, but I'm like, because it's a whole thing. We got to set up the things and the lights and the whatnot and the camera. It's all very exciting. I'm like exhausted. Yes, yes, I was just looking at that on Twitter. Richard Bull. I played my paw on Little House. Yes, Richard Bull, Nels Oleson, who died a few years ago. But today is his birthday. And I know they were talking about that on Twitter. I saw people were posting lovely pictures and videos of Richard, who was just the nicest. Yes, nicest guy. Those who want to, yes, Richard Bull, who played Nels on the show, he was sort of like the person we voted most like his character. Because he was so kind and he was so smart. And he was like, reasonable and he was so patient. Catherine would get a little Mrs. Olsen. She was like opinionated and and not very patient. And she could get very Mrs. Olsen. She wasn't mean like Mrs. Olsen, but she was like cuckoo like Mrs. Olsen, and very, very, like I said, sort of keyed up. She could really get going. Oh, but Richard was mellow. And he, of course, he was friends with Catherine. They were great friends, offset. So, he would say, now, Catherine, calm her down. But yes, he was the voice of reason and sanity, very smart, very sound advice. He's totally Mr. Olsen. And some years ago, I was visiting him in Chicago. He and his wife, we went to lunch in Chicago when he was living there before he went and retired to the place in the retirement home out here. And we were chatting, and I was telling him all the stuff I was doing with, I have a company and all the things I do and the performing and the touring. And he said, "Why, you've grown up to be a fine businesswoman. I'm so glad. We were worried you'd become a flibberty-gibbet." And it's just like only Richard could get the word flibberty-gibbet into a sentence and totally like pull it off. But very, very Nels. He was glad I'd become a good businesswoman and all that. Oh, someone just asked about Catherine McGregor. Catherine McGregor, there was, saying she didn't do a funeral. Both Richard and Catherine were not really into funerals. Richard did not do a thing. There may have been some guys at the theater company on Melrose that he liked, may have had a little evening for, but no, very low-key. And Catherine did not have a big funeral, but the Vedanta Society, the ashram that she went to, did have a memorial, a little service with most of the people who went to the ashram, where they're a very small group. So yes, so they were both very chill and low key. Didn't want big fancy Hollywood funerals. No, none of that. Who knew? Who knew the Olsons would not want to be ostentatious? There you are. So today is chapter 24. Oh, the school exhibition. And wasn't Laura like getting paranoid and hysterical about the school exhibition? Yes, I think that was a thing. Well, at least we're not having this. Let's have another little society show where it was like we had drag and minstrel shows, and it got weird. It just got weird. So here we are. The school exhibition. The room was warm, and the lamp burned clear and bright. But Laura's chilly fingers could hardly button her blue cashmere basque, and it seemed to her that the looking-glass was dim. She was dressing to go to the school exhibition. She had dreaded it for so long that now it did not seem real. But it was. Somehow she had to get through it. She just really hates going to stuff like this, parties, and she's just like really kind of shy. Carrie was frightened too. Her eyes were very large and in her thin face, and she whispered to herself, "Chisel in hand stood the sculptor boy," while Laura tied on her hair ribbon. I guess Carrie's reciting. Clearly, she's doing her lines. Ma had made a new dress of bright plaid woolen for Carrie to wear when she spoke her piece. "Ma, please hear me say my piece again," she begged. "There isn't time, Carrie," Ma replied. "We're almost late as it is. I'm sure you know it perfectly well. I'll hear you say it on the way. Are you ready, Laura?" "Yes, Ma," Laura said faintly. Ma blew out the lamp. Outdoors, a cold wind was blowing, and snow blew white along the ground. Laura's skirts whipped in the wind. Her hoops crawled up maddeningly. Those hoop skirts, her hoops are like running away. Her hoops crawled up maddeningly, and she feared that the curl was coming out of her bangs. Desperately, she tried to remember all that she must say, but she could not get beyond. "America was discovered by Christopher Columbus in 1492. Columbus, a native of Genoa in Italy." Carrie was breathlessly chanting, waiting the hour when at God's command. And of course now, that would be highly insufficient. She said, "Oh yeah, Christopher Columbus discovered America." No. That wouldn't fly now. Because Christopher Columbus, okay, besides the fact that several million people were living here, Native Americans, besides that even, now it's like, oh yeah, then the Vikings, but it seems like people were just coming and going from this place for a while. And Columbus had a good press agent. This happens with a lot of historical figures, that they just had a really good publicist and got more written about them than some of the other bit there. Poor Carrie. So she's going, "Where to get the hour? I want to hear this poem." Pa said, "Hello, they've got the church lighted up." Both the schoolhouse and the church were lighted. A thick, dark line of people with splotches of yellow lantern light was moving toward the church. "What's up?" Pa asked, and Mr. Bradley answered, "Oh, so many have come. They can't all get into the schoolhouse. Owen's moving us into the church." See, they did need a new building. He's right. Mrs. Bradley said, "I hear you're going to give us a real treat tonight, Laura." Laura hardly knew what she answered. She was thinking, Christopher Columbus, a native of Genoa in Italy. America was discovered by Christopher Columbus in 1492. Christopher Columbus. She had to get past Columbus. We all need to get past Columbus. Ain't that the way? In the entry, the crowd was so jammed that she feared her wire hoops were pressed out of shape. There was no more room for wraps on the hooks there. The aisles were packed with people trying to find seats. Mr. Owen was heard repeating, "These front seats are reserved for the scholars. Pupils, please come forward to these seats." Ma said she would take care of the wraps. She helped Carrie out of her coat and hood, while Laura took off her coat and hat and nervously felt her bangs. Now, Carrie, you have only to do as well as you've been doing, Ma said, as she straightened Carrie's full plaid skirt. You know your piece perfectly. Yes, Ma, Carrie whispered. Laura could not speak. Dumbly she guided Carrie up the aisle. On the way, Carrie pressed back against her and looked up pleading. Do I look all right? She whispered. Laura looked at Carrie's round, scared eyes. One wisp of fair hair straggled above them. Laura smoothed it back. Then Carrie's hair was perfectly sleek, from the middle parting to the two stiff braids hanging down her back. There now, you look just right, Laura said. Your new plaid dress is beautiful. Her voice did not seem to be hers. It was so serene. Carrie's face lighted up, and she went wriggling past Mr. Owen to her classmates in the front seats. Mr. Owen said to Laura, the pictures of the presidents are being put up on the wall here, just as they were in the schoolhouse. My pointer is on the pulpit. When you come to George Washington, take up the pointer and point to each president as you begin to speak about him. That will help you remember the proper order. Yes, sir, Laura said, but now she knew that Mr. Owen was worrying too. She, of all persons, must not fail, because hers was the principal part of the exhibition. So, it's so scary. I mean, they're clearly freaking out. But, like, you have to think about it. Imagine, I mean, nowadays, right? Everybody wants to be in show business. Like, everybody wants to be an actor. We have TV and movies, and we have the internet with YouTube stars and Instagram influencers. And remember, we had Vine stars, people on YouTube and Instagram. Nowadays, everyone's like, oh, yeah, I want to be on TV. I'm going to be on YouTube. I'm going to perform. I want to play at my school concert. Like, la, 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 la. That wasn't a thing. I mean, not only hi, there wasn't even radio shows yet, let alone TV or any of that. There was also, these people were living in small towns. Broadway, they weren't in New York going to Broadway shows. The idea of being an actor when you're in South Dakota in the 1800s, that's not a regular thing. And speaking, Laura was so sheltered. Remember in the first book I said she knows 12 people. She knew like 12 people for her whole chunk of her life. She saw just her family, and then it's like, oh, look, Mr. Edwards. Oh, these neighbors. Having neighbors scared her for the first book. And then now they're living in town where she actually has to talk to more than 10, 12 people in a day. And she was hanging around so few people. And then even then they'd go out to the farm and it would just be them. So she was very isolated. Months at a time with just her family, and really the first, 12, 13 years of her life, literally she had a circle of like 12 people, counting Ma and Pa and baby Carrie. It's craziness. So the idea for people like that, and a lot of people live like that, large numbers of people, and then they would get together and say, you're going to speak in front of the school, in front of the town. Can you imagine? Nowadays, the kids, yeah, I'm rehearsing for my YouTube special, I'm good with that. But you barely have hung out with 10, 12 people in your whole life, and you have to get up in an auditorium and recite. Be absolutely terrifying. Hey, people were used to that sort of thing. Scare them out of their wits. So, yeah, she is scared. Did he tell you about the pointer? Ida whispered. Owen was worrying. Oh, yeah, as Laura sat down beside her. Ida looked like a dim copy of her usual happy self. Ida's freaking out. And Ida's pretty calm. Ida's very calm. She does not freak out. Laura nodded, and they watched Cap and Ben, who were tacking up the pictures of the presidents on the board wall between the studding. The pulpit had been moved back against the wall to leave the platform clear. They could see the long school pointer lying on it. Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln. He point to people. I know you can do your part, but I'm scared, Ida quavered. You won't be when the time comes, Laura encouraged her. Why, we were always good in history. It's easier than the mental arithmetic we've got to do. I'm glad you have the beginning part anyway, Ida said. I couldn't do that. I just couldn't. She doesn't want to be the opening act. Laura had been glad to have that part because it was more interesting. Now, there was only a jumble in her head. She kept trying to remember all that history, though she knew it was too late now, but she must remember it. She dared not fail. Oh, yeah, so she's she's terrified because she could fail at public speaking, performing, and her schoolwork, all at the same time. The teachers there and the whole town. It's she could crash and burn in, multiple categories. So frightening. Please come to order, Mr. Owen said. The school exhibition began. Nellie Oleson, Mary Power, and Minnie, Laura and Ida, and Cap and Ben, and Arthur. Who's Arthur? Arthur filled up onto the platform. Arthur had filed up onto the platform. Arthur, and I don't think, have we talked about Arthur? Has Arthur been introduced? Did Arthur just suddenly appear in this chapter? Because I don't remember Arthur. Arthur was wearing new shoes, and one of them squeaked. In a row, they all faced the church full of watching eyes. It was all a blur to Laura. Rapidly, Mr. Owen began to ask questions. Laura was not frightened. It did not seem real that she was standing in the dazzle of light, wearing her blue cashmere and reciting geography. It would be shameful to fail to answer or to make a mistake before all those people, and Pa and Ma. But she was not frightened. It was all like a dream of being half asleep, and all the time she was thinking, America was discovered by Christopher Columbus. She did not make one mistake in geography. Oh, Arthur is Minnie's brother. Thank you. I'm like, Arthur, where did Arthur come from? Oh, Minnie's brother. Arthur. Okay, good. There was applause when that was over. Then came grammar. This was harder because there was no blackboard. It was easy enough to parse every word in a long, complex, compound sentence full of adverbial phrases when you see the sentence written on the slate or blackboard. Well, maybe it's easy for you, Laura. Oh yeah, as long as you got a blackboard, it's easy to parse every word in a long, complex, compound sentence full of adverbial phrases, which is like one right there. It's an example of one. It is not that easy. Yikes. It is not so easy to keep the whole sentence in mind and not omit a word nor so much as a comma. Still, only Nellie and Arthur made mistakes. Of course Nellie made mistakes. Nellie totally bungled it. Okay. Mental arithmetic was even harder. Okay, arithmetic and in your head. Yikes, okay. Laura disliked arithmetic. Her heart beat desperately when her turn came and she was sure she would fail. She stood amazed, hearing her voice going glibly through the problems in short division. Divide. Okay, let's see if you can do this, because this is hard. I dare any of you guys do this in your head. Divide 140, no, wait, let me get it right. Divide 347,264 by 16. I ain't doing it. Seriously, is that 300? Yeah, 347,264 by 16. Now, 16 into 14 goes twice. Put down 2, carry the 2. 16 into 27 goes once. Put down a 1 and carry 11. 16 into 112 goes 7 times. Put down 7 and carry 0. 16 into... No, I would pass out. Goes 16 goes... dying and carry 0. 16 into 6 does not go. Put down 0. 16 to 64 goes 4 times. Put down 4. 347,264 divided by 16 equals 21,704. No. Calculators, an abacus would help, anything. She need not multiply back to make sure the answer was right. She knew it was right because Mr. Owen set another problem. Man. At last he said, "Class dismissed." Through a great noise of applause, they all turned and filed back to their seat. Now the younger pupils would speak their pieces. Then Laura's turn would come. Oh yeah, that's just the first round. That was the warm-up act with the math problem. She hasn't even done her thing yet. Carrie hasn't read her poem. It's going to be brutal. While one after another the girls and boys were called to the platform and recited, Laura and Ida sat still and stiff with dread. All the history Laura knew raced madly through her mind. America was discovered by Christopher Columbus. The Congress of the Confederated Colonies in Philadelphia assembled. There is only one word in this petition which I disapprove, and that is the word Congress. Mr. Benjamin Harrison rose and said, "There is but one word in this paper, Mr. President, which I approve, and that is the word Congress. And George III may profit by their example. If this be treason, gentlemen, make the most of it. Give me liberty or give me death. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Their feet left bloody tracks upon the snow." Okay, her mind has just, it's like the musical 1776, but she set it to 45 RPM and is like flipping out. It's all just racing through her thing. Oh my God, she's losing it. Okay. Suddenly Laura heard Mr. Owen say, "Carrie Ingalls." Carrie's thin face was strained and pale as she made her way to the aisle. All the buttons up the back of her plaid dress were buttoned outside in. Laura should have thought to button her up, but no, she had left poor little Carrie to do the best she could alone. All the buttons are all wrong. Oh no, turn up my volume. Is my volume? Wait, where am I? There. There you go. That's as loud as it gets. Okay. Oh no. Carrie stood very straight, her hands behind her back, and hopefully never turning her back to the audience because her buttons are all a mess. Hands behind her back, and her eyes fixed above the crowd. Yes, don't look at the audience. Don't look at the audience. Just look over their heads. You can do it, Carrie. Her voice was clear and sweet as she recited. It's pretty good. Chisel in hand stood a sculptor boy, with his marble block before him, and his face lit up with a smile of joy as an angel dream passed o'er him. He carved that dream on the yielding stone with many a sharp incision. In heaven's own light the sculptor shone. He had caught that angel vision. That's amazing that Carrie did that, and now she has to do more. She can't button her dress, but she can recite that. Sculptors of life are we as we stand, with our lives uncarved before us, waiting the hour when at God's command our life dream passes o'er us. Let us carve it then on the yielding stone with many a sharp incision. Its heavenly beauty shall be our own, our lives, that angel vision. Ooh, yeah, that's pretty heavy stuff. What's Carrie? 8? How old are these children that are reciting that? We didn't have to recite in front of the class, really. I mean, little teeny tiny things. Heavy-duty recitation in front of the class didn't start till like 6th grade, when people were like 10, 11. And I remember I did the Raven. I did Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven in front of the class. Yes, because I was totally like Wednesday Addams' giant morbid weirdo. But I did the Raven. I did all of it, all the verses. Yes, I did. Like 10 or 11. But yeah, 6th grade. We had to do stuff in junior high school. But like 4th, 5th grade, like Carrie's like, I don't know, 4th grade or something by today's standards. And I don't know people that grade could do that. She had not once faltered nor missed a single word. Laura was proud, and Carrie flushed rosily as she marched smiling down to her place and a loud clapping of hands. Then Mr. Owen said, "Now we will listen to a review of the history of our country from its discovery to the present time, given by Laura Ingalls and Ida Wright. You may begin, Laura." Will she do it? The time had come. Laura stood up. She did not know how she got to the platform. Somehow she was there and her voice began. See, I know that feeling. And I mean, I don't even have like old-fashioned stage fright anymore. I've just been performing so many times, so many places that it's like I'll get nervous, but I also sort of go into the zone, and there's all these actory things you can do to yourself mentally to like go, oh, okay, I'm good. So, you know, you play tricks on yourself so you're not scared. But I know that feeling when something about like, how'd you get on stage? I have no idea how I just got on stage. You finish the play and you go, I have no idea how I just got off stage. How am I even back in the dressing room? What just happened? Yeah, where it's a little bit. So, yikes. Somehow she was there and her voice began. America was discovered by Christopher Columbus in 1492. Christopher Columbus, a native of Genoa in Italy, had long sought permission to make a voyage toward the west in order to discover a new route to India. At that time, Spain was ruled by the United Crowns of... Her voice was shaking a little. She steadied it and went carefully on. It did not seem real that she was standing there in her blue cashmere, held grandly out by the hoops, with Ma's pearl pin fastening the lace cascade under her chin, and her bangs damp and hot across her forehead. She told of the Spanish and the French explorers and their settlements, of Raleigh's lost colony, oh, yes, that's a good one, of the English trading companies in Virginia and in Massachusetts, of the Dutch, who bought Manhattan Island and settled the Hudson Valley. At first, she spoke into a blur, and then she began to see faces. Paws stood out from all the others. His eyes met hers, and they were shining as slowly he nodded his head. See, that's another clever trick to do if you're reciting or doing stand-up or what have you in front of a huge group of people. You're terrified. You're freaking terrified. You're going to faint. What you do is you pick someone in the audience. You can pick someone, and if it's like a friend of yours, pre-arranged, even better. And you look at them, someone who's going, and into it, and just stare at them. Just tell the whole show to them, and don't look at any of those other people. It's much better. Do that. You can totally do that. Poor little thing. Then she was really launched upon the great history of America. She told of the new vision of freedom and equality in the New World. Yeah, equality in the New World. They just had a minstrel show last week. They just did a minstrel show. Oh, good heavens. But they were trying. Equality in the New World. She told of the old oppressions of Europe and the war against tyranny and despotism, of the war for independence of the 13 new states, and how the Constitution was written that these 13 states united. Then, taking up the pointer, she pointed to George Washington. There was not a sound except her voice as she told about his poor boy head, his work as a surveyor, his defeat by the French at Fort Duquesne. I'm so bad. Duquesne, and then of his long, disheartening years of war. She told of his unanimous election as the first president, the father of the country, and the laws passed by the first Congress and the second, and the opening of the Northwest Territory. Then, after John Adams, came Jefferson, who wrote the Declaration of Independence, established religious freedom and private property in Virginia, and founded the University of Virginia, and bought for the new country all the land between the Mississippi and California. Next came Madison, the War of 1812. The invasion, the defeat, the burning of the Capitol and the White House in Washington, which they burned it, in 1812. And the brave sea battles fought by American sailors on America's few ships, and at last the victory that finally won independence. Then came Monroe, who dared to tell all the older, stronger nations that their tyrants never again to invade the New World. Harumph. Andrew Jackson went down from Tennessee and fought the Spanish and took Florida. And then the honest United States paid Spain for it. Oh, sure they. In 1820 came hard times. All the banks failed. All businesses stopped. All the people were out of work and starving. Did you know that happened in 1820? Did you know? We all know that happened in 1930. We all remember that happening in 1930, right? The Great Depression. And the 1870s were quite rough. There was recession. We had a big recession in the 1970s. 100 years later, 1870s, forever. That's why there's all that Laura and the family poor. 1970s, big. We had whip inflation. Now we had big recession, and we had the huge depression in the 30s. And there you are, 1820, giant banks failed, businesses stopped, big, just like the 30s, total crash. Just like every 100 years. It's like every 100, and then the recession. So, oh dear, it's the 2020s. And so the 1820s, and then we had the 1930s. So, like, checking my watch, perhaps what we're going through is the normal, if you can go. It's like 100-year locust. It's that times get rough, because, crashed in the 20s. Yikes. Then Laura moved the pointer to the picture of John Quincy Adams. She told of his election. She told of the Mexicans who had fought a war of independence too and won it, so that now they could trade where they pleased. So down from the Missouri went the Santa Fe traders across 1,000 miles of desert to trade with Mexico. Then the first wagon wheels rolled into Kansas. But that's like to her and her family about them. Laura had finished. The rest was Ida's part. She had down the pointer. She had laid down the pointer and bowed in the stillness. A loud crash of applause almost made her jump out of her skin. The noise grew louder and louder until she felt as if she must push against it to reach her seat. It did not stop even when she last reached her place beside Ida and weakly sat down. It went on until Mr. Owen stopped it. She killed it. Laura killed it. She got up there, and she was, and George Washington interjected, and Christopher Columbus, and then the thing, and the crash of 1820, and she rocked the house. They went bananas. So yes, she pulled it off. It was very good. And Carrie, totally nailed it. Woo, woo, woo. Poor Laura. It's a wreck. All right. Oh, people are saying they're sorry they missed my show last night. That's okay. I'll do it again. You know I'm going to do it again. It'll be fine. Poor girl. Laura was trembling all over. She wanted to say an encouraging word to Ida, but she could not. She could only sit and rest and be thankful that the ordeal was at past. Oh, yeah, she's going to collapse after that. It's like me after a show. It's over, yes. Ida did very well. She did not make one mistake. Laura was glad to hear the loud applause for Ida, too. Good thing. After Mr. Owen had dismissed the audience, getting out of the church was slow work. Everyone stood between the seats in the aisles, talking about the exhibition. Laura could see that Mr. Owen was pleased. Oh, and here she is. Here's the big walk. Laura, having to stagger back down that aisle to her seat with everyone staring at her and cheering and clapping. Which is great, but she's like, social anxiety. Well, little half-pint, you did a fine job, Pa said, when Laura and Carrie pushed through the crowd to him and Ma. You did too, Carrie. Yes, said Ma. I am proud of you both. I did remember every word, Carrie agreed happily, but oh, I'm glad it's over, she sighed. So am I, said Laura, struggling into her coat. Just then, she felt a hand on the coat collar, helping her, and she heard a voice say, Good evening, Mr. Ingalls. She looked up into the face of Almanzo Wilder. Da-da-da-da. He did not say anything, and neither did she, until they were out of the church and following Pa's lantern along the snowy path. The wind had died down, the air was very cold and still, and there was moonlight on the snow. Oh, there was moonlight on the snow. Almanzo was walking around. Oh, yes, there you are. You're all proud. There you are. Oh, my. Poor thing. She's going to have another anxiety attack. She can't believe this. Uh-oh. Then Almanzo said, I guess I ought to have asked you if I may walk you home. Yes, Laura said, but anyway, you are. It was such a tussle getting out of that crowd, he explained. He was silent a minute and asked, May I see you home? Laura could not help laughing, and he joined in. Yes, Laura said. She wondered again why he was doing this when he was so much older than she. Mr. Boast, or any friend of Pa's, might see her safely home if Pa was not there to do it, but now Pa was there. She thought he had a pleasant laugh. He seemed to enjoy everything. Probably his brown horses were tied on Main Street, so he was going that way anyway. Not a clue in the world, this girl. Are your horses tied on Main Street? She asked him. No, he answered. I left them blanketed on the south side of the church out of the wind. Then he said, I am making a cutter. Something in the way he said it gave Laura a wild hope. She thought how wonderful it would be to go sleigh riding behind those swift horses. Of course, he could not mean to ask her, but still, she felt almost dizzy. Make it a cutter. He's going to make one of those super speedy sleds. And with those horses, we've seen what he's done with what little buggies. It's like, flying around. And they had those little cheap sleds the boys were playing, but a cutter. Oh, yeah, that's going to be fun. If this snow holds, there ought to be some good sleighing, he said. It looks like we're going to get another mild winter. Yes, it does, doesn't it? Laura answered. She was sure now that he would not ask her to go sleighing. It takes some little time to build just right, he said, and then I'm going to paint it. 2 coats. It won't be ready to take out until sometime after Christmas. Do you like to go sleighing? Laura felt as if she were smothering. Now, see, he's nervous too, because he's building this up. He's not just saying, oh, by the way, do you want to go sleighing? He's like, and I'm gonna paint it, and they're like 2 coats. Yeah, no, Almanzo's all bashful and adorable here too. I don't know, she replied. I never went. Then boldly she burst out, but I'm sure I would like to. Well, he said, I'll come around sometime in January, and maybe you'd like to go for a little spin and see how you like it. Some Saturday, say. Would that suit you? Oh, yes, Laura exclaimed. Thank you. All right, then I'll be around in a couple of weeks if the weather holds, he said. They had come to the door, and he took off his cap and said good night. Laura fairly danced into the house. Oh, Pa! Oh, Ma! What do you think? Mr. Wilder's making a cutter, and he's going to take me sleigh riding. Yes, I think the parents about now are going, Pa and Ma glanced at each other, and it was a sober glance. Laura quickly said, if I may go. May I, please? We will see when the time comes, Ma answered. But Pa's eyes were kind as he looked at Laura. She was sure that when the time came, she could go sleigh riding. She thought what fun it must be to go speeding swiftly and smoothly through the cold, sunny air behind those horses. And she could not help thinking in delight, oh, won't Nellie Oleson be mad? Yes, the joy of sledding with Almanzo. It's romantic. You get out in the fresh air, you have the fancy cutter and the beautiful horses, and it makes Nellie crazy. So, yoo-ha. That'd be awesome. But yes, now wait, so is she 15? And remember, Laura Ingalls Wilder, although they've never mentioned her birthday, it's February. Her birthday's in February. So if she's already turned 15, she'll be 16 in February, and he's talking about coming over in January. So now it's like slightly less creepy that she's going to be almost 16, and he's asking her on a wholesome sort of date, sleigh riding in the daytime. But he's been chatting her up since she's like 14, and he's like, hi. So now, and she is only 15, and he's walking her home. She's still, that's right, because her mom was like, she's 15. She's still 15. So she is 15, and he's asking her home and has asked her on technically sort of a date. And he was chatting her up at like 14. So 16, okay, a little daytime, maybe in a sleigh. But he is 25. I know at one point she said, well, he must be at least 23. He's totally 25 because he's 10 years older than her. All right, so let's see. Now, what do we do? Because we survived that one, the school exhibition. And, well, that's not long. I think, should we do it? Because we'd be starting a new one tomorrow. Do you want to do that? Because I have to burp. See, I have to burp now because I just drank a bunch of 7-Up. Was he really only 8 years old? Well, Dean's only 8 years older than Laura, but I thought Almanzo was 10 years older than Laura. I remember. Now, the next chapter is called Unexpected in December, and it's short. It is short. So I'm going to do it. And it'll be finishing this book. Is that okay? Should we finish this book? Should we do it? I think we should. And then, tomorrow, we will start another book. Oh, they're going, go for it, yes. Okay, it's really short. So we'll do Unexpected in December, and then tomorrow is these happy golden years. So it's like, yay, they're like very happy ever. So here you go. Unexpected in December. Next day was blank and limp. That was a lot of excitement. Now it's like, okay. They would not try again to have Christmas without Mary. The only presents hidden away were for Carrie and Grace, and though Christmas was not till tomorrow, they had opened them that morning, the small Christmas box from Mary. There would be a whole week without school. Laura knew that. Laura knew that she should improve the time in study, but she could not settle down to her books. Again, she's like, so not studying. It's no fun studying at home when Mary isn't here to study with, she said. Dinner was over, and the house all in order, but it seemed empty without Mary in her rocking chair. Yeah, the holidays. The holidays are the worst. Somebody to, and they can't phone her. They can't even, get her on the phone. I guess they could do a telegraph. It's like, so she misses her, the holidays. Laura stood looking around the room as though searching for something she had lost. Ma laid down her church paper. I declare, I can't get used to her being gone either, she said. This piece by a missionary is interesting, but I have read aloud to Mary for so long, I can't properly read to myself. I wish she hadn't gone, Laura burst out, but Ma said she must not feel so. She is doing so well in her studies, and it is wonderful that she's learning so many things, running a sewing machine and playing the organ and doing such pretty beadwork." They both looked toward the small vase made of tiny beads, blue and white, strung on fine wire that Mary had made and sent home to them all for Christmas. It stood on the desk near Laura. She went to it and stood fingering the bead fringe around it as Ma talked on. "I am a little worried about how we're going to find the money for the new summer clothes she needs, and we must manage to send her a little spending money. She should have a braille slate of her own, too. They are expensive." "I'll be 16 2 months from now." They're confirming the birthday coming up. "I'll be 16 2 months from now," Laura said, hopefully. "Maybe I can get a certificate next summer." "If you can teach a term next year, we may be able to have Mary come for summer vacation," said Ma. Now that's going to make Laura want to teach. That is way too tempting. Laura's going to go, "Oh, yeah, got to do it now." She has been away for so long, she ought to come home for a little while, and it would cost only the railroad fare, but we must not count our chickens before they are hatched. "I'd better be studying anyway," Laura sighed. She was ashamed of her moping idleness when Mary had the patience to do such perfect work with tiny beads that she could not see. Ma took up her paper again, and Laura bent over her books, but she could not rouse herself from her listlessness. From the window, Carrie announced, "Mr. Boast is coming, and there's another man with him. That's him now at the door." "That is he," said Ma. Laura opened the door, and Mr. Boast came in, saying, "How do you do, everyone? This is Mr. Brewster." Okay, that's to know the history thing in the book. Mr. Brewster. Trouble is about to ensue. Mr. Brewster's boots, his thick jacket, and his hands showed that he was a homesteader. He did not have much to say. "How do you do?" said Ma, as she placed chairs for them both. "Mr. Ingalls is over town somewhere. How is Mrs. Boast?" "I am disappointed that she did not come with you." "We all like Mrs. Boast. She's nice. Mrs. Scott wasn't so nice. Mrs. Boast is cool." "I didn't plan to come," said Mr. Boast, "but we just stepped in to speak to this young lady." His black eyes flashed to look at Laura. She was very much startled. She sat very straight, as Ma had taught her, with her hands folded in her lap and her shoes drawn back beneath her skirts, but her breath caught. She could not think what Mr. Boast meant. He went on, "Lou Brewster here is looking for a teacher for the new school they are starting in the district. He came into the school exhibition last night. He figures that Laura's the teacher they want, and I tell him he can't do better." Laura's heart seemed to leap and fall back and go on falling. "I am not old enough yet," she said. "Now, Laura," Mr. Boast said to her earnestly, "there is no need to tell your age unless someone asks you. The question is, will you teach this school if the county superintendent gives you a certificate?" Laura was speechless. She looked at Ma, and Ma asked, "Where is the school, Mr. Brewster?" 12 miles south of here." See, she didn't realize that school exhibition where she's doing all the history, that was an audition. She was actually, it was like a buyer's show, when you do a part of the show and there's buyers and investors in the show in the audience. She was at a buyer show. And it was an audition, and she got the gig. Somebody was out there and said, "Yes, you're hired. You're a teacher." She did so well, she got a job. 12 miles south of here, Mr. Brewster replied. Laura's heart sank even further. So far from home, among strangers. She would have to depend entirely upon herself with no help at all. She could not come home until the school term was over. 12 miles and back. It was too far to travel. Mr. Brewster went on. "It's a small neighborhood. The country around there isn't settled up yet. We can't afford more than a 2-month school, and all we can pay is $20 a month and board." "I'm sure that seems a reasonable sum," said Ma. $20 is like pretty good. It would be $40, Laura thought. $40? She had not realized that she could earn so much money. "Mr. Ingalls would rely on your advice, I know, Mr. Boast," Ma added. "Lou Brewster and I knew each other back east," said Mr. Boast. "It's a good chance for Laura, if she'll take it." Laura was so excited she could hardly speak. "Why, yes," she managed to stammer, "I would be glad to teach a school if I could." "Then we must hurry along," said Mr. Boast as he and Mr. Brewster stood up. Williams is in town, and if we can catch him before he starts home, he'll come over and give you the examination right away. What? What? Now? What? He's just going to come over. Oh, yeah, teaching certificate. She was like gearing up. She was going to study for like another several months, and then she was going to go somewhere. She's going to take this exam, and she was going to get the certificate. And it's like, yeah, superintendent's up the road. We're just going to have him come over to your house and give you the teaching exam here, right here in your living room, like now, and you'll be a teacher. And you're not even 16. Ah! I'm terrified. That's just, yikes. Then they said good day to Ma and hurried away. Oh, Ma, Laura gasped. Do you think I can pass? I believe you can, Laura, Ma said. Do not be excited nor frightened. There's no occasion to be. Just pretend that it is a school examination and you will be all right. It was only a moment before Carrie exclaimed, That's him now. It's like, right now, you're going to become a teacher. We're giving you the test now. There is he, Ma said almost sharply. Stop saying that's him. That's he. That's he coming. It doesn't sound right, Ma. It don't sound right, Ma. It doesn't sound right, said Ma. Right straight across from Fuller's Hardware, cried Carrie. The knock came at the door. Ma opened it. A large man with a pleasant face and friendly manner told her he was Williams, the county superintendent. So you're the young lady that wants a certificate? He said to Laura. There's not much need to give you an examination. I heard you last night. You answered all the questions. But I see your slate and pencil on the table, so we might as well go over some of it. Okay, like I said, he was at the audition. There you go. They sat together at the table. Laura worked examples in arithmetic. She spelled. She answered questions in geography. She read Mark Antony's oration on the death of Caesar. She felt quite at home with Mr. Williams while she diagrammed sentences on her slate and rapidly parsed them. Oh, a lot of work. I'm sure that there's some teachers nowadays who I'm sure pull this off. Oh, and the examples, we get examples. Scaling yonder peak, I saw an eagle wheeling near its brow. I is the personal pronoun first person singular, here used as the subject of the verb saw, past tense of the transitive verb to see. Saw takes as its object the common generic noun, eagle, modified by the singular article an. And then she diagrams. She gives you pictures of her diagramming a sentence in the book. Only Laura Ingalls will give you pictures of a diagram sentence. That's cray. Scaling yonder peak is a participle phrase, adjunct of the pronoun I, hence adjectival. Wheeling is the present participle of the intransitive verb to wheel, here used as an adjunct to the noun eagle, hence adjectival. Near its brow is a prepositional phrase, adjunct of the present participle of the verb to wheel, hence adverbial. I can't even believe I just read that sentence, let alone understood any of it. Oh, but yes, people were. Did we all get dumb? It was just saying people were smarter back then. They really used to make kids learn this stuff. Now, I had a 6th grade teacher that cracked down on us because we were being 1960s, 1970s lazy little children, and we read some good books. And we had a couple teachers like, hey, I have this book, you should read this book. So we kind of got into reading good, and I love to read early on, so there you go. So it was coming along, but there was some slack stuff going on, depending on which teacher you had. You had one teacher would say, okay, we're going to keep going, we're going to go to that long division, and others would go, the multiplication's fine. So it depended who you had. But we were sort of slogging along, and we got to 6th grade. And this teacher, oh boy, she said, we had to write something. It was nothing like this. Little teeny tiny essay. Little teeny, like a page, 2 pages. It was like what I did on my summer vacation, blah, blah, blah. It was a little thing. Well, they came back, and they were terrible. And the teacher threw a fit. She said, you guys in the 6th grade. This is the spelling, the grammar. She says, it's a nightmare, and you can't write. And I'm not expecting War and Peace here. I mean, it's a page and a half, but just the sentencing, it's like, what is going on? You're writing like you're in the 3rd grade. This is the 6th grade. She said, here's the problem. You guys are going, middle school, it's whatever you called it now. Junior high, grammar school, elementary school, junior high, and high school. It's California. That's what we called it then. Now it's like, grammar school, middle school. I can't remember what names they go. So she said, you guys are going to junior high next year, 7th grade. You're going off to junior high. She said, you're going to get slaughtered. You won't survive the first week. They're going to kill you. You're going to show up in junior high. You're all going to wind up in remedial English. You're all going to wind up in remedial if you write like this. And if you don't improve by high school, you're finished. You're not going to graduate high school. And I know it's only 6th grade, but you're going to be embarrassed. It's going to be very unpleasant for you in the 7th grade if this is how you write sentences. And we're like, uh-oh. So she said, okay, here's what we're doing. And she pulls this girl out of class, and she hands her a little note, writes a thing, and says, go down to the office and get me 30 copies. It's a big class, 30 people, 30 copies of language arts. And she comes back with the cart with these big old books, big old textbooks. And they were grammar. They were diagram a sentence, noun, verb, adjective, participle, the whole bit. And she said, you're all getting 2 pages of homework every single night for the next, well, to the end of the semester. The next, 3 months. The next 3 months, you're having 2 pages of homework. Okay, 2 pages isn't that much, but people screamed in horror because it was real grammar, hard work, doing the sentence thing. And she said, no, you're going to get 2 pages of homework, and you are all going to learn grammar shaming. It was grammar shaming. She said, I want to see all of you be able to tell me what a noun is, what a verb is, what an adjective is, and you're all going to be able to diagram a sentence, and then you're going to write a little essay like this, like a do-over. I'm not even going to grade you on this essay. It was so bad. You'll have a do-over in like a month, and we'll see how you go. But you're going to do this. And, people were like, ow, no, ow, oh, woe is me. I was kind of like, okay. I liked reading. The first couple days, I was like, what? But I got into it. I got good. And it was true. It was true. We all got to junior high, and all these people from my school all wound up in the same 7th grade class. And the number of people who wound up in remedial, do-over English, and the number of people who were flunking and having a heck of a time. And I was like, la, 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 I got an A in English. So yes, I did. I had a teacher who went full 1800s on me and made me learn grammar in the 6th grade. It was brutal. Conjunction, junction, thank you. And thank God there was Schoolhouse Rock. I'd have not have made it through lolly, 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 get your adverbs here. Yes. I'd have been finished. But luckily we had Schoolhouse Rock to sort of carry me over the rest of the way. But I got hit with a pile of books in the 6th grade is what happened. And that's, and I thank that woman because that's how I'm able to read and write now. Because the people I know, not so good because they didn't have her. And then it's hard later, right? Oh, hence adverbial. Yeah. After only a few such sentences, Mr. Williams was satisfied. After a few of those, Mr. Williams was probably ready to go home. Stop. And then he said, there is no need to examine you in history, because she just did the entire history of the world in class. I heard your review of history last night. I will cut your grades a little, for I must not give you more than a 3rd grade certificate until next year. May I have use of the pen and ink? Yes, Mom. He was going to bump her all the way up, let her teach, all grades, give her a full certificate. But it's she's only 15. So he's like, history, you got totally qualified. They are here at the desk, Mom showed him. He sat at Pa's desk and spread a blank certificate on it. For moments, there was no sound but the faint scratch of his sleeve on the paper as he wrote. He wiped the pen point on the wiper, corked the ink bottle again, and stood up. There you are, Miss Ingalls, he said. Brewster asked me to tell you that the school opens next Monday. I was now! Next Monday? He will come for you Saturday or Sunday, depending on the looks of the weather. You know it is 12 miles south of town. Yes, sir, Mr. Brewster said so, Laura replied. Well, I wish you good luck, he said cordially. Thank you, sir, Laura answered. When he'd said goodbye to Ma and gone, they read the certificate. Look, so here's a little tiny school desk where he wrote it out. And check this out, they put the entire certificate in here. That's why this chapter's so short, because there's an entire page of this. This is hilarious. Actually, they put it's backwards, but you get an entire page illustration of Department of Education, Dakota County of Kingsbury. Teacher certificate in super duper gothic font. This is to certify that Miss Laura Ingalls, has been examined by me and found competent to give instruction in reading, orthography, writing, arithmetic, geography, English, grammar, and history. And having exhibited satisfactory testimonials of good moral character, which is capitalized, by the way, is authorized by this third grade certificate to teach those branches in any common school in the county for the term of 12 months. Dated this day, the 24th day of December, 1882. Christmas Eve! Christmas Eve! This man comes over and does the exam and says, "Great, you're leaving on Sunday. You go because you start Monday. You start Monday. It's Christmas Eve. Y'all start in a couple days here. Boom." And that's signed there. Yes, Mr. Willenblatt, Superintendent of Schools, Kingsbury County. Result of examination. And little numbers, which I can't read because they're like in this Gothic font, and I'm going, what the heck? Reading, she got a 62, writing 75, history 98, English grammar 84, arithmetic 80, geography 85. That's teacher level scores. And he said he even cut them down because he said, I'm just going to give you a third degree, 60. Laura still stood in the middle of the room holding that certificate when Pa came in. What is it, Laura? He asked. You look as if you expect that paper to bite you. Pa, Laura said, I am a school teacher. What? Said Pa. Caroline, what is this? Yeah, Pa left for like 5 minutes. He went to the store and he came home and Laura's got a teaching certificate and is going to work on Monday. It's like he went to the store. She was doing her homework. They were talking about Christmas and whether they're going to see Mary soon. And these people came over and offered Laura a job and then gave her the full exam and gave her the certificate while he was out. It's like I went to get eggs. It's like, what happened? Caroline, what is this? Read it. Laura gave him the certificate and sat down. And he didn't ask me how old I am. When Pa had read the certificate and Ma had told him about the school, he said, I'll be jiggered. That's almost swearing in Pa land when he says, I'll be jiggered. And you go to the store, come home, your kid's a teacher. What the heck is going on? I'll be jiggered. He sat down, slowly read the certificate again. That's fine, he said. That's pretty fine for a 15-year-old. He meant to speak heartily, but his voice has a hollow sound for now. Laura was going away. Oh, and those two, thick as thieves, she's his favorite. Yep. She could not think what it would be to teach school 12 miles away from home, alone among strangers. She did not want to think of it. She did not want to go. The less she thought of it, the better. For she must go, and she must meet whatever happened as it came. Be brave. Now Mary can have everything she needs, and she can come home this next summer, she said. Oh, Pa, do you think I can teach school? I do, Laura, said Pa. I am sure of it. Boom! We did it. What's that? Town on the Prairie is one of the longer and more difficult books, with some controversial and hard-to-take chapters, but by golly, I'll be jiggered. That's how fast Laura became. Remember in the show, she had to take this exam, she had to get out of school, she had to do this, she had to go study, we had to have a mud fight. It took forever. Here, she gives one history exposition. Guy comes to her house and goes, here, parse a sentence. Great, terrific, here. That was it. Boom, she's a teacher. That's not hard. Now John Bass says, check the dates. It was actually 16. But in the book, she messed with the timeline. She did. She does the timelines on the show. The timelines in the book are. But we did it. We survived. We did Little Town on the Prairie. So tomorrow is Saturday. And it will be, yes, these happy golden years. And it's like her and Almanzo, and it'll be lovely. It's a very nice book. It's a nice book. Now, some people say, then you're done. But then there's the first 4 years. Now, the first 4 years is kind of weird because the first 4 years was, like, discovered in her stuff. Like, she wasn't going to publish it. And, like, Rose found it. Went, look, another thing. So it's, like, slightly different stuff. But I'm going to read it. I'm going to read these happy golden years. I'm going to read the first 4 years. I'll just keep, like, finding things to read. I don't think I do. I'm trying to remember when I last read Little Town on the Prairie. I had not read this in years. And the reading in order is crazy. I said, I wonder what it's like to read them in order. That's when I started this. It's wild. Watching it change from, oh, it's a kid's book in the big woods and they're playing with the pig's bladder and Laura's little, to it getting really intense and about history and politics of the time and the economics of the time and all this heavy stuff. And then Laura's like parsing sentences and it's like, whoa, what is happening? And things really change. And the style, all this fashion, the style change. All of a sudden she's talking about, and the dress had a polonaise. So, say what? So yes, it really does change over the course of the books. It's fascinating. I'm so glad. I'm so glad I'm doing this. So this is awesome. This is great. And tomorrow. So 1:30. I think so. If I might need to go a little earlier. I gotta be somewhere. I have to be somewhere. When do we ever have to be somewhere right now? But I have to actually be somewhere. But that's it. But yes, so tomorrow we will start another book. Yes. So things are like, I did my show. I will probably do another show again. We'll do Confession Prayer again. And I'm going to go check the records, because if you watched and you were like buying tickets and tipping and whatnot, there will be winners. There will be winners that will win things. Oh. And I think you already figured out that there were more bonnets in stock, because my phone went beep boop, and I looked at the square, went, how many orders? So yes, I got it there. Yeah. I just mailed a ton of stuff the other day. I got like some cups. I just got boxes that will hold the cups properly. So things are, they'll be going. And then I did notice that there's a bunch more orders. That might be Monday. But yeah, we'll make it happen. And this is great. This is so much fun. I'm just, I was just chatting with Bill and Randy about this, and they were saying, this is great. Yeah, you like it. I'm loving this. So we'll do it again tomorrow. And I'll see you then. And so wash your little hands, wear your little mask, take care of each other. I'll see you tomorrow.